Arizona State has had a magical season, and I think it's coming to an end on Saturday.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the greatest sport on planet Earth. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can get a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Big 12 Championship Game, the ACC Championship Game, some thoughts there, and two quarterbacks in the transfer portal that are coming to a team near you. But which team? Ho-ho! I have thoughts on Miller Moss and Kaidon Salter. But we start with the Big 12 Championship Game. I'll get to Brett Yormark's thoughts, but a look at this particular matchup. It's going to be a close game. Arizona State's favored by all of 2 points, according to our friends over at FanDuel, understandably so. They are the team that it's easy to ride with because Iowa State has kind of been flying under the radar, right? They were hot, they were undefeated, and then they lost a couple games. Oh no, there goes Iowa State backdooring their way into the conference championship game, and they're there. That's where they're going. Arizona State has felt more like a wagon, and they've been playing some really, really good football. But they got a bad piece of news recently. Star wide receiver Jordan Tyson out indefinitely, as in the rest of this season. I hope he comes back to Tempe next year, because he and Sam Leavitt have had a connection that most of you probably don't know about. If you don't watch a lot of Big 12 football, if you haven't watched Arizona State this year, Jordan Tyson's a 1,000-yard receiver. Jordan Tyson has been the key focal point of the Arizona State passing game. Can you beat this Iowa State team with a one-dimensional offense? I have my doubts. I really do. Now, am I going to be stunned, completely shocked if Arizona State overcomes this and wins the football game? No. But Iowa State this year is allowing just 165 yards per game through the air. And Arizona State loses a guy in Jordan Tyson who has been, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, not just this season, but particularly in the second half of the year when Arizona State has been at its best. The guy you think of when you think of Arizona State football is Cam Skattebo first and Kenny Dillingham second. How about that halftime locker room speech, by the way? That's some pretty good stuff. Looking like the guy that he was the OC for one season, Dan Lanning. Those guys can fire up a group of 18 to 22-year-old guys, or let's see, it's 2024, so 18 to 28-year-old guys. But I think that Cam Skattebo has got every opportunity to succeed in this game. The Arizona State offensive line is a very underrated unit. Skattebo is not getting enough love, although it's starting to trickle up from a national standpoint and people understanding this guy is awesome. My guy Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, has trademarked him as the people's running back. It's hard to not see him that way. He's awesome. He's just phenomenal to watch. He stuck it out when he could have gone elsewhere, and he's put Arizona State in this position, and he can have a really good game here. The Cyclones allow 173 yards per game rushing. They have on 4 occasions, that's 1 out of every 3 games, given up 200 or more rushing yards this season. They have a 300-yard rushing game allowed this year. So Arizona State could show up and they could run everywhere. Skattebo averages 127 per game. They average 195 as a team. But then you're gonna have to do more. I don't think you can just go up and down the field unless Arizona State finds a way to go for 250 plus on the ground. Sam Leavitt's going to have to throw the football, and Xavier Guillory is now the biggest name to know. He's going to have to be huge. Over the last 6 games, when Arizona State has really turned it on, revved it up, and propelled themselves to the Big 12 Championship Game after being picked last by the Big 12 media in the preseason, Jordan Tyson has been the unsung hero of it all. Because Skattebo gets all the love, deservedly so. He's awesome. He's clutch. He can run out the clock as well as anybody in college football, and yes, I include Ashton Genty in that discussion. Tyson over the last 6 games, 6 receiving touchdowns, 122 yards per game. 500-yard efforts. One of them was 99 yards. I'm going to go ahead and count that for the purpose of making you understand how important he has been. Do you know who Arizona State's second leading receiver is this season? Cameron Skattebo. Yeah, the running back. It's been Jordan Tyson. It hasn't been, well, Jordan Tyson's the lead guy. No, it's just been Jordan Tyson. Levitt's numbers have been really good. He's going to have to outplay Rocco Becht. That's what this is going to come down to. He is going to have the game of his life without his clear-cut, undisputed, number one go-to wide receiver. And Xavier Guillory's probably the guy. He's been there for a couple seasons. He's probably going to have to be the guy that steps up. Skattebo's going to have to run the football. I suspect he can. But I'm picking Iowa State to win this game because I don't know. This is going to be a close game, but I don't know if I have full trust in the Arizona State passing attack without him because he has been so gosh darn important. It's going to be a big game for Sam Levitt. It's going to be a big game for Marcus Arroyo, the offensive coordinator, but I will take Iowa State to win. I think both teams are going to be able to score, but that Iowa State passing game, I think, is going to do just enough to outplay Arizona State's, make a key conversion, or keep the offense on the field on a fourth down, something like that. That's the sense I get here. 31-27, I'll take Iowa State to win the football game and go to the college football playoff, where they will be ranked well behind Boise State. Brett Yormark came out and said there is no way that we should be behind the Group of 5 champion. Well, as a blanket statement, I don't actually agree. What if Boise State had beaten Oregon? That was entirely possible, by the way. And Oregon was 11-1 instead of 12-0, but their lone loss was to Boise State, and that was a win. Well, then it'd be pretty hard to argue with Boise State being a higher-ranked conference champion. However, they did not win the game, and they do still play in the Mountain West. So for this particular year, yes, I agree. I fully agree with Brett Yormark. The idea that the Mountain West champion, worthy, undisputedly, of being in the college football playoff, is going to have a bye while the Big 12 champion, there's going to be an 11-2 Big 12 team that has a tougher road to advance through this new look 12-team playoff than a team that played in the Mountain West this season. And I think Boise State is really good. I think if you put Boise State on the field with the Big 12 champion, it's a competitive football game. I think you can say that about Boise State and several playoff teams. You can have that opinion on the one hand, and on the other hand, still understand that they did not play the same caliber of competition game in and game out. And it should need to be a separation of 2 games for me to say, in the record department, for me to say, okay, you can be the higher ranked conference champion compared to the Big 12. I do not subscribe to that notion being a good one, that Boise State can be there, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear and obvious. I think if you're the Big 12 champion and you want to get that bye, you're rooting for UNLV. Talked about this game on yesterday's show. A lot of different pivot points in that game, starting with the quarterback completion percentage. Who can be more efficient, Maddox Matson or Hajj Malik Williams? That game is on Friday. So Big 12 fans, you can watch that game, wake up on Saturday, watch the Big 12 championship. Saturday is going to be a phenomenal day of college football. It's going to start on Friday. That is a play-in game, and it is also going to determine whether the Big 12 champion, whichever team that is, gets a bye. Because if it's UNLV, I don't think the committee has the guts, because they lost to Syracuse in addition to losing to Boise State earlier this year. I don't think they would put them over the Big 12 champion and move them from the 20th ranked team to, yeah, you get the 4 seed. I don't think they're going to do that. They'll do it for Boise State. They will not do it for UNLV. So that's what to watch. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments, or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @SMcLaughlinCFB or at @LockedOn_CFB. Those be the handles. Let's pivot to the ACC. A lot of pivoting words, just the word pivot, I mean, on today's show. That's the way it goes sometimes. Let's go to the ACC. Clemson's an underdog. Guess what? They should be. They should be. Can they win? That depends on one thing and one thing only. That's coming up next. Right after we talk about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Do you want to bet college football championship weekend? Because it's readily available. All the point spreads are under a touchdown. Mostly less than that, right around a field goal. Why? Because it's going to be competitive. It's going to be fun. It is going to be hard-nosed with playoff spots and seeding on the line. FanDuel.com, never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Can Clemson get it done? Can they sneak into the playoff despite losing a rivalry game to South Carolina, who would be on the outside looking in? Because this is the playoff structure we've decided. I have railed against auto bids for a long time, but guess what? They still exist. So Clemson could get into the playoff, and South Carolina would be watching like Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar, just banging on the window, no, 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 and they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So the key to this game for Clemson is Kade Klubnik. It is Kade Klubnik going into the game. It'll be Kade Klubnik during the game and at the end of the game. He is the most singularly important player on either side. His ability to succeed will define whether Clemson can succeed. So when you think about SMU, what do you ponder? What pops into your mind? Is it they're in the ACC? Okay, good, because that should be the first stop. But they're in the ACC. Not a single ACC team has beaten them, by the way. BYU beat them on their home field by 3 points back in early September in a game that at the time looked like a battle of two teams who aren't really going anywhere, at least not that exciting. And, well, that just didn't prove to be the case. That's why you play games on the field, not hypothetically on paper. So that's the only team that's beaten SMU. Everybody else, it's been pretty hard. It's been very hard, as a matter of fact. So when you think of SMU, you probably think about Rhett Lashlee, their head coach, who is a really good offensive mind. You probably think about Kevin Jennings, who's taken over at quarterback and has run with it this year. Sometimes literally, sometimes metaphorically. He's done a really good job and has established himself as the starter. I thought Preston Stone was good last year. Kevin Jennings is clearly better, and Rhett Lashlee knows what he's doing when he makes that change, or knew what he was doing when he made that change. I was surprised, but it's clearly working out. So SMU should be into the playoff either way. More on that later. But the reason Kade Klubnik is so important is when you think of SMU, you think of offense. You don't think about their defense and how good it's been this year. Would it surprise you to learn that opponents on average this season do not run for even 100 yards per game against SMU's defense? 95 on the ground. Phil Maffa is one of the most underrated 1,000-yard rushers in all of college football. I concede that particular point. I counter with SMU's defense is like Texas's defense. It's not what gets the highlights or the attention, and you have an offensive head coach, but that's kind of the unit that has been running the show. I think it's more true with Texas than SMU because the Mustangs offense is averaging a blistering 39 points per game this year, and they have been over 30 in each of their last 4 games, but they have held their opponents under 10 in their last 2. Now, those opponents were Virginia and Cal. You make of those programs whatever you would like. But SMU has been playing good defense this year. Very quietly. Very quietly, they've been playing some capable defense. So if they stay away from the turnover bug, I trust SMU's offense. The only time that sprung up, boy, did it spring up, was in a game against Duke. By the way, I would like you or anyone out there to answer this question. Why is Duke not ranked, but Missouri is? Just someone find me a response that doesn't involve the letters SEC in consecutive order. But when you look at what SMU has done this year, they have played better complementary football than people give them credit for. But if you're not going to be able to run, and I do not look at Clemson's offensive line and the way they've run the football this year with Phil Maffa and think, yeah, I think they're going to go all over. They're going to gash this SMU defense. Nah, don't see that matchup playing out. Kade Klubnik, maybe. We've seen the dual threat ability of the one-time 5-star quarterback, and he's been really good throwing the ball this season, just to be clear. I don't want to discount that. His touchdown-interception ratio has been fantastic. The offense has been better at times. It wasn't great last week against South Carolina, so it's going to have to improve. But I don't think that you're going to line up against this SMU defense and just run all over the field. Now, 5 years ago, 2019 Clemson probably could have done that against 2019 SMU. Welcome to the year 2024. So I think that Kade Klubnik has to have one of, if not his best game of the season, if they're going to pull this out. If they are going to do, and I will openly state, as I have before, just so there is no confusion, I want Clemson to win this football game. Not because I think Clemson is a playoff deserving team, but because winning the ACC championship is at least more deserving than 9-3 Alabama that got blasted by multiple possessions against an Oklahoma team that could not throw for even 70 yards through the air in that particular game. That is what I am objecting to. And that's not an anti-Alabama take. That's just pro-college football logic in the playoff, but I don't know that we're going to get that. So is Clemson going to pull this off? Well, it's not going to be an easy thing to do because SMU hasn't lost to another ACC team this year. They haven't necessarily played the most difficult schedule in the ACC. Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, Cal. It's been manageable. They've navigated it really well. They loaded up in the transfer portal in the offseason. They figured out what they need to do at quarterback. They've settled in defensively. Hasn't always been great this year. It's not a dominant defensive unit for SMU, but certainly, as I mentioned, is an underrated unit at the very least. So our friends at FanDuel have got SMU favored by 2.5, a total of 55.5, by the way. I think that says more about Clemson's offense than it does SMU's, because SMU's been explosive. They've been much more consistent and capable. But when I think about this game, it's going to come down, as it often does, to the quarterback play. This is not a trenches game for me. This is Clemson's going to try to run the ball early. I don't think they'll have a lot of success, and they'll realize, all right, Garrett Riley, offensive coordinator for Clemson, you need to just dial up the pass. And if you're going to run, just run Kade Klubnik. This needs to be a Kade Klubnik special, and Dabo Swinney has got an opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong here, even though they lost to South Carolina. It was a close game. Had it at the very end. I mean, they were close. They were right there. Can't say they weren't competitive with a team that has used the transfer portal. At least that's the perception, is that, well, South Carolina will use it, but Clemson won, and, well, Clemson's playing with a lot of those teams. And this is an even more transfer portal versus high school-driven roster matchup. SMU was huge in the transfer portal this offseason, pulling guys from Power 4 schools all over the place. And Clemson, nah, we're good. And Dabo Swinney could do it, and then he could just poke his head into the college football playoff, and he'd even get a bye. He'd even get a bye. Yeah. 10-3 Clemson that lost to Georgia 34-3. They got blown out by Louisville on its home field. That lost a rivalry game to South Carolina. Could get a bye. You may think of that whatever you would like. But on the SMU getting dropped conversation, boy, I hope it doesn't happen. Really hope it doesn't happen. Cannot guarantee you it won't. I mean, Lane Kiffin's doing everything in his power to make sure that Ole Miss gets put ahead of an 11-2 SMU into the college football playoff. I mean, he is nonstop. He is very upset on Twitter. And look, every now and then, he raises a good, valid point. The counterpoint that I'm just going to continue to throw at anyone who wants to present the Ole Miss to the playoff argument to me is, how about you beat Kentucky? Kentucky is not a good football team. They're not good. And Ole Miss lost at home. And Lane Kiffin's all spot the ball. Don't care. Don't let it get that close. You shouldn't have. You got outcoached. Lane. Sorry to break it to you, but you did. So SMU at 11-1 or at 11-2, if they lose this game, no, they don't have the greatest strength of schedule in the world. But are you going to punish them for making the conference championship game? Because Ward Manuel of the College Football Playoff Committee, the chair, he said, well, it's possible. It could happen. Excuse me? After Joe Tessitore was declaring on Friday night's game against Georgia Tech that the Bulldogs were in if they win, regardless of what happens in the SEC Championship game. Really? Really? So Georgia can't be punished for what happens in the SEC title game, but SMU can. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I have been a proponent of SEC bias for a long time. I have said, better players, better conference. That's it. Yeah, I'm kind of in favor of it. I am not in favor of blanket immunity for the SEC. because I have seen with my own eyes the product that other conferences put on the field and what they've put on the field and how they match up head to head. And you cannot convince me there's a Grand Canyon sized gap, because there isn't. The results have shown just that. Even if you lose a close game, I didn't blow them out. Where's the SEC? Where's the ACC SEC superiority for the SEC? It hasn't shown up on a consistent basis. The ACC has notched a bunch of notable wins against the SEC this year. So I hope and pray that SMU at 11-2 is into the playoff. I do not say that with 100% certainty, though. That's the world we've created. Not the one I would create, but it's the one that we have created. The transfer portal is popping. It's popping. It's not even officially like open yet, but names are going in, or they're going to go in. Quarterbacks are starting to get on the move. Miller Moss at USC. Kaidon Salter at Liberty, one-time Tennessee Vol. Those guys are looking for new schools. Where do they go? Speaking of Louisville, that's coming up next. So Miller Moss is in the transfer portal. And let me tell you, with how it looked coming into this season and how the season began, there is no way, and I mean no way, that I could have predicted Miller Moss winding up in the transfer portal. But he gets benched. Turns out he wasn't entirely the problem at USC, which is why he's going to be one of the more highly coveted quarterbacks that finds a new home this offseason. But Jaden Mayava comes in for him, and he decides, all right, I'm going elsewhere. And is USC running it back with Jaden Mayava next year at quarterback? I mean, he did plenty of good things. I don't know that he's a Heisman Trophy caliber guy, but Miller Moss was in that conversation early in the season, gets the big win against LSU, played great in the Holiday Bowl last year. I mean, everything was lining up for Miller Moss to be the next Lincoln Riley college quarterback that plays at an incredibly high level. And he's more in the Baker Mayfield mold than Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts with regards to his running ability, and it just didn't work out. And I think plenty of people are going to dog on this particular not move. They're going to dog on Miller Moss. Be like, oh man, well, he wasn't any good. He couldn't do this. Two things. Number one, USC's offensive line wasn't good. Was not good. In the last 2 years, you can harp on USC's defense all you want. USC's defense improved this season, but they regressed. Why? Their offense was not the same. You can look at the quarterback position. Miller Moss was not perfect. I'm not trying to argue that he was. He wasn't the solution, but he was not entirely the problem. But USC's inability to win in the trenches on either side of the ball is the primary reason they ended the regular season 6-6. And once again, I will throw this out there. Please, someone listening, run it up the chain to someone who's more involved and important than myself. Get 6-6 Oklahoma against 6-6 USC in a bowl game right now. Right now, everyone would watch that. It would be the most watched ReliaQuest Bowl imaginable. The Fenway Bowl. I don't care. I don't care what the bowl tie-ins are. Somebody make that happen, and you're going to get a fat number on TV, because that's a game I'd be interested in, you'd be interested in, and those fan bases would be interested in, Oklahoma in particular. So, please make that happen. I would be so happy. Anyway, back to the point here. Miller Moss did not have a great offensive line, did not have a great run game. When you think about the close losses USC had this year, 2 of them came down to one play or one sequence in which they lost in the trenches. Defensive line lost on 4th and goal at Michigan. Offensive line lost down in the goal line against Washington. It's a couple of yards. That's the difference between 8-4 and 6-6. That was the difference for USC. So, and with regards to Jaden Mayava, I watched throw a couple pick sixes against Notre Dame last week. So I'm not saying he can't be good. He's clearly got plenty of talent, but I didn't notice a huge change in USC as a football team with Mayava from Miller Moss. So if you can go to a situation that has got a stable, offensive-minded coach, I think is a good place for Miller Moss to be, and enough of a unit up front, Miller Moss can be successful. So Louisville is one team that stands out to me that has been really solid the last couple of years. They ended with a big win against Kentucky to close out the regular season. They brought in Tyler Shuck, who was a veteran transfer that had bounced around a little bit, had some success, but not as much as he was hoping for. He popped this year. Tyler Shuck played some of the most underrated football in the country this season. So the idea of Miller Moss going there, a guy who's had spotty success, who's been around college football for a while, who's sat on the bench, he's not quite as big, he's not quite as mobile as Tyler Shuck, but he's every bit as capable with the arm talent if you get him in the right system. I like that. Jeff Brom is one of the best coaches in the country. Look at what happened at Purdue when he left. It went downhill. He had him in the conference championship game. Yeah, they got shut out against Michigan, but they were there. He left 4-8, 1-11. They're looking for another new coach. Jeff Brom is really good. So I think that'd be a great home. Now, the other interesting teams are in the Big Ten, Michigan and Iowa. Those are reportedly the schools that are going after Miller Moss. I'll start with Michigan. Do not rule this out. If Miller Moss had been Michigan's quarterback this year, they end the regular season 7-5. They are at least 8-4, if not 9-3. They could not throw the football at all. They don't need a guy that's going for 250 to 300 a game. And that's what you thought Miller Moss would be, right? He had that big game in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville, by the way, so at least some familiarity. Jeff Brom has seen him up close and personal, and Miller Moss has seen what Louisville's all about in the football field. And that was a good game. USC won, but I'm just saying, you never know. But for Michigan, they don't need that guy who's going for 406 touchdowns. No, they need 202 touchdowns. That's it. Sometimes they only need 150. And one touchdown, and just don't turn the football over. And that was part of the reason I think that Miller Moss got benched at USC, turned the football over a little bit, got inaccurate throwing the ball. I think he just needs a reset. I think he just needs the right sort of spot. I think Michigan could be that. I'll throw in Iowa as the dark horse, because same sort of deal as Michigan, but lower stakes as a program. You don't have to do a lot. You're going to win with a ground game and defense at Michigan and Iowa. Iowa's just a lesser version of what Michigan has been the last several years, right? So I think he could succeed either of those spots, but Louisville would be the number one spot that I think he could go and win. And I know what Michigan fans might say. Well, wait, Bryce Underwood's coming in. Do you want to win a conference championship in the year 2025? I imagine you probably do. Can you name for me the last true freshman quarterback to start and win a conference championship at the Power 4 level? You go ahead. You got to go back a ways. You got to go back a serious ways. A guy who came in, started game one, played the rest of the season, won a Power 4 conference championship. Who was the last guy to do that? Someone can correct me if my trivia knowledge is off, but pretty darn sure it was a guy by the name of Trevor Lawrence. And the number of true freshmen that start and don't reach that level is a lot higher. A lot higher. So the Michigan thing could make plenty of sense. Veteran quarterback, mentor Bryce Underwood, let him learn the system for a year, Cade McNamara to J.J. McCarthy style. That handoff, I think, could be incredibly logical. Last thing on today's show, Kaidon Salter's in the portal. This is a curious one. So Salter began his career at Tennessee. He transferred to Liberty, had a lot of success. Last year, was able to lead the Flames to an undefeated season, Conference USA Championship, went to the Fiesta Bowl, and they got shellacked by Oregon. This year, not the season Liberty and Jamie Chadwell were looking for. I don't look at Kaidon Salter, like he's kind of a big-ish name in the quarterback transfer portal market, which I don't think is going to be nearly as popular or buzzing as it was a season ago. I think John Mateer at Washington State, who hasn't hit the transfer portal as I'm recording the show, that's one of the bigger names that could hit the transfer portal. We'll see others. Connor Wigman is out there as well, and I'll probably have some thoughts on him on tomorrow's show. But I'm not a huge Kaidon Salter at the Power 4 level guy. But for all my G5 football fans out there, this is an option. I think about, now, Maddox Madsen is a young guy, so he probably comes back to Boise State. But Jason Entz just got hired over at Fresno State. If they were in need of a quarterback, I could see him having success. And that's a guy who I think could take a Group of 5 team, lead you close to the college football playoff. I think he can get you there. I don't think he can do that in the Big Ten or SEC. I don't even think in the ACC or in the Big 12. Maybe he proves me wrong, but this name is going to land somewhere, and when he does, it is going to be discussed on this very show because he's a notable quarterback who's got some experience and has been productive under Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, but I do not believe that he is someone who is going to go to a major program. Like, that's not a guy who Auburn looks at and says, is that our answer at quarterback next year? No, he is not. Would Auburn look at Connor Wegman? That's a discussion for another day. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.